The Podcaster's Guide to the Conspiracy.
Hello and welcome back to the Podcaster's Guide to the Conspiracy. I am Josh Addison, he is Dr. M. Dentith, and we are both, once again, co-located here in New York.
Yes, we are co-locating currently.
We're not actually in New York, no, I know. I don't know why that came to me.
Because you're a liar, Joshua. Short and simple, everything you say is like, tell me a lie.
The sky is purple.
Convincing. Convincing. See, that's the kind of lie he tells. He is very convincing. You're looking outside now and going, my God, the sky is purple. Or is it?
It's not.
You've just been lied to.
No, we're in Auckland, New Zealand. Matthew, though, might as well have been to New York. Were you in New York?
No.
You weren't, were you? You were in Boise, Idaho, and before that, where was the other one?
So I think you have to understand the coasts of America. Right. You have New York on one side and LA on the other.
Right.
And then Boise is kind of north of LA.
Right. And New York is...
No, New York is on the right, LA is on the left. And
Right.
I'm left-right dyslexic, so the fact that I have to explain this to you is embarrassing to everyone.
Right, but essentially it's all just America. How big can that country be?
Apparently it takes Brian Kelly, my host in Claremont, over 4 days to drive from his house in Claremont to his parents' house in Mobile, Alabama. Right. That's how big that country is.
Well, it's no business of ours how slowly his car drives. At any rate, you're back from New York, so everything's fine. And we'll talk about your travels and trials and tribulations and so on.
Indeed, we
will.
Bit. But first, we have to say hello to our new patron, James, whose charming message to us can be summarised as, don't let those bastards keep you down. Well, James, we won't.
Yes.
Now, those of you who have been following Patreon news may well be aware that there was a bit of a kerfuffle in the last week where Patreon were going to, and I use the past tense here, going to change the way that people funding shows like us work, whereby if you were giving, say, $1 to the show, which you should do, it's just a moral imperative and also a legal one in some countries, you were going to be charged $1 plus a processing fee, plus another fee of 39 cents, which, as many creators pointed out, meant that many people who can only afford to give $1 a month to particular shows like our own might have found a bit hard. So Patreon have rolled back that program, and if you decide to give us $1, you will just give us $1 and we will eat the service fees on the other end. So if you were hesitating about donating to the show, don't worry. And if you're thinking about donating to the show, please do. And if you were donating to the show and have stopped because of what Patreon did, we understand, but you can come back to us now. All is fine.
That would be nice. And I understand Kickstarter just launched some sort of a Patreon.
I think it's called Drip, which seems, Kickstarter Drip or something. So there's going to be, we're going to investigate another way for you to not give us money.
But at any rate, I think that may have been the final... final nail in the whole Patreon idea. Not only did they piss off a large section of their consumer base, but then a better alternative suddenly popped up. So I thought, we better be on our best behaviour.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, no, we have a new patron who gave us money, and the son of a bitch praised us as well. Actually said nice things in the email.
It's terrible.
So now we're going to have to
constructive criticism, James.
We're going to have to keep doing this forever now. Just on the vague off chance that someone else will say something nice to us.
No one's ever said anything bad about us in an email ever, apart from one American on the Conspiracism Podbean page once, who didn't like the fact that we kept on making fun of Republicans. And we're not very sorry about that. We're not very sorry about that at all.
Sorry, no.
We come from a really liberal society in the Southern Hemisphere, where even the Democrats are considered right-wing. So we are going to make, even our right-wing party members, make fun of Republicans. That's how ridiculous they are.
I think if we crack on to the news section, we'll probably have a bit of Republican making fun of.
Can we?
Right on the top of it. Looks like it, yes.
We should move straight on to that then.
Well, let's do that.
Breaking conspiracy theories in the news.
So, it feels like the whole world was watching the Senate race in Alabama, in which Democrat Doug Jones managed a narrow win over the Republican nominee Roy Moore.
Now, a lot has been said about Moore and his questionable proclivities, but this is a podcaster's guide to the conspiracy, so we'll just stick to the conspiracies around the election.
And conspiracies there were. Almost immediately, rumours started spreading that voters had been bussed in from out of state to give Jones the victory.
But Josh, are such rumours at all credible?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Over on Twitter, screenwriter, showrunner and all-round clever person John Rogers...
Someone Josh loves so much he's promised to sacrifice his children for should he ever die and need resurrection.
John Rogers gave a fairly thorough and widely retweeted, I believe J.K. Rowling retweeted it, and then
but she's
everybody
problematic
in the
now
world...
because she likes Johnny Depp.
Yes, it's all a morass. Widely retweeted takedown of the logistics that would have had to have been behind such a conspiracy. How many people would be needed? How many buses? How many would have to have known about it and kept quiet? And of course, what would be required to circumvent Alabama's relatively strict voter ID requirements? When you actually look at it in real terms, it just doesn't stack up.
And this is the sort of thing we like, judging a conspiracy theory on its merits and finding it wanting. We like finding conspiracy theories wanting.
Well, if having judged them on their merits, that's what is merited. Yes,
he wrote this one. That said, we're not so fond of the way he started the whole thing by saying, like all conspiracy theories, this is my John Rogers impression.
It's a very good
this falls apart as soon as one asks how. He's obviously using conspiracy theories in the strictly pejorative sense, which we're very much against. Hashtag not all conspiracy theories. Hashtag conspiracism.
Conspiracism. It's exactly not like feminism, but about conspiracy theories.
Indeed.
At the end of the day, I think the important thing to remember is that I thought John Rogers was cool long before any of you did, and he follows me on Twitter, which essentially means that we're the same person, and I can claim credit for all of this.
Sure you can. In other news, Aotearoa's spies have been up to dodgy business and are refusing to talk about it.
Yes, it's that time of year here in Aotearoa where the various intelligence oversight reports come out, and it's making for messy reading. Possibly the lowest hanging fruit is that the SIS and GCSB do not want to give briefings to ministers in the Beehive.
That's the name of the building our MPs and the government operate out of.
It's called the Beehive because it looks a little bit like a beehive.
It contains no bees.
Rather, they would prefer said MPs come to them. This means there's an almost already chilling effect on intelligence briefings because fewer MPs are likely to attend, and those pesky meetings which can't be shifted will mean some briefings will eventually be missed. Why our intelligence agencies can't establish a secure briefing room in the Beehive is a big question. It's not as if they can't, but rather that they won't.
But it gets worse. Our local spies have both broken the law around accessing customs and immigration data and lied to people about their powers when questioned, and are refusing to explain why.
Well, our spies are claiming they're in a legal standoff between their lawyers and the government's lawyers as to the correct interpretation of the relevant statutes.
But that raises the question why our spies even have their own lawyers, given surely they exist to serve the government. Now, I realise it's a gross simplification of a complex constitutional issue, but refusing to answer questions about bad behaviour on the basis of, but our lawyers say, is activity which looks tantamount to a cover-up.
Did you say conspiracy?
No, I said cover-up, but close enough.
In news from Boise, hang on, you should... This is probably more your area of expertise.
Indeed it is. Yes, news in from Boise of a massive criminal conspiracy involving Idaho, Taiwan, and mainland China. It turns out that prosecutors in Taiwan are claiming 2 ex-employees of Micron Technology, a Boise business, stole trade secrets in order to benefit a competitor in mainland China.
The ex-employees of Micron Technology took trade secrets from the Boise company to their new Taiwanese employer, who were then alleged to have planned to share said secrets with the Chinese competitor.
Now, it's not the first instance of a criminal conspiracy against the Boise tech company to come to light either. The shopping of trade secrets between rivals using ex-employees has been going on for quite a while, and is a recognised issue in the wider tech community. It's just more proof that if you allege a criminal conspiracy, people will take it seriously and investigate it. But add the word political to the mix, and suddenly we think it's all prima facie unlikely.
Talking politics, we haven't had to say a word about Trump for weeks, so here's a quick catch-up. K.T. McFarland, former Deputy National Security Advisor, wrote an email in which he said the Russians had thrown the election for Trump. Alt-righters and Republicans immediately leapt to her defence by claiming the email was faked and had been introduced into the evidential record by Barack Obama. White House responded by claiming she'd written the email, but it was obviously a joking reference to the allegations of collusion with Russia.
Meanwhile, 2 FBI agents have been sacked from the Mueller investigation for anti-Trump sentiments, which now mean both sides are declaring victory. Trump and his associates are claiming this shows the investigation is biased. Mueller and his allies claims this shows they are not biased because the jerks were fired as soon as they found out about what they had been tweeting, texting, saying, and thinking.
Meanwhile, former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn seems to have flipped on Trump and is now working with the FBI in the investigation. Everyone has a reckon on this. Our reckoning is that this story is so messy we'd like to get a time machine, travel to the future, read the comprehensive book on the results of the investigation, come back to the now, and then only focus on the parts of the story which will turn out to have had legs.
But enough about Trump. Let's return once again to our neck of the woods, and the story which should have been big but wasn't. The former PM, John Key, lied about mass surveillance to the people of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
So going back to the 2014 election, certain figures made some big claims about New Zealand's role in data collection and interception for the Five Eyes network. Edward Snowden and Glenn Greenwald laid out evidence that our country was using a scheme codenamed Speargun to mass surveil internet traffic coming in and out of New Zealand.
The then PM, John Key, denied the claim. Yes, Speargun had been on the table, but he personally stopped its implementation in March of 2013. If he was lying, he promised to resign.
Turned out he did lie. But by the time the news came out, not only was John Key no longer PM, but his party was no longer in power.
You see, despite Key claiming the program was halted in March 2013, it wasn't. The program was only halted in late 2014, when Key was told it was about to be revealed to the world by Snowden and Greenwald.
What's weird about the story is how little traction it's had here. This major scoop by New Zealand Herald journalist David Fisher failed to make the front page in the national newspaper, didn't appear at all in the print edition of said paper, and no other news outlets picked up on it.
Yet it's also quite a predictable outcome. Key and his party are no longer in power, and the National Party are unlikely to challenge the new government on the actions of their own former party leader, who they recently knighted.
Meanwhile, the new government's probably now institutionally captured by the very intelligence agencies they questioned while in opposition. Now that they're the ones being briefed, they're probably being told just how vital said programs are, and how the public doesn't understand the threats the country faces.
So what should be a big story about a political cover-up has been relegated to blogs and second-rate podcasts.
Sad.
And that was the news. That's a bit of a Pinterest pause you've got there, Joshua.
Yeah, you're not going to do the usual catchphrase, the fit, spit.
Well, we've had a complaint. Friend of the show, Andre, has complained about that part of the show. Apparently, A, sounds ridiculous, and B, is borderline problematic.
Fine, but he better double his pledge on either our Patreon or Patreon campaigns.
I'm sure he will. Now, nothing times 2 is still nothing,
We'll
right?
be rich by Christmas. Right, but it's not Christmas, and we're not millionaires yet, so we can't chuck this
Millionaire
whole...
yeast. We're not millionaire yeast.
We're not millionaires yet, so we can't chuck in this podcast right now, so I guess we better keep doing it. So, updates as far as the eye can see. Who should do updates first?
Josh, tell me about your exciting 2 weeks whilst I was away. I'm sure you have many an adventure to tell me.
I very much don't. As I said last time, I was on jury duty, though. That was exciting and interesting and new and different. Not in any way conspiratorial.
Yes, but you would say that if you had conspired to commit an injustice.
Yeah, I probably would, yes. No, I got put on a trial. That was fun. It was only 2 days long. It wasn't horribly traumatizing and depressing or anything.
Did you command that the complainants be hung by their neck until dead?
Unfortunately, no. I don't think you're allowed to do that anymore.
Yeah, we did abolish the death penalty a while ago, but you can still insist upon it.
Well, I could. We could be told to bugger off by the judge. And
what better way to get out of jury duty? I will demand the death penalty. This is a parking infraction. I will demand the death penalty.
So, yes, I probably, when I asked who should do the updates, maybe I should have just bowed out completely, really.
No, I really want to hear more about this jury duty you did.
Really?
No.
No, I did jury duty. I was on a trial. It was fun and interesting, and hopefully I won't have to do it again for a long time.
See, I've been called up to jury duty at least twice, and nothing's ever happened.
That was interesting, though. I mean, I'm 41. It's the first time I've ever been called up. I was in there with 20-year-olds who were on their second summons, so it just shows how random it all is. But I guess that was interesting, though, that even... Like no one was challenged by either of the lawyers as we got called up. It was just, they were all randomly picked from the electoral roll. We get there, they randomly pick half of us to go up to the courtroom. From there, they randomly pick 12 of us to go on the jury. Ended up 6 men, 6 women.
And the partridge in a pear
all sorts of different
tree.
ages and ethnicities.
Christmas.
It was actually a surprisingly diverse cross-section of the society.
Well, I'm glad you. That's a wonderful parable.
Well,
for
it's
Christmas.
just nice to show that sort of the whole random selection thing did seem to kind of work out. Anyway, we're really not here to talk about me today because we're here to talk about you because you have been away in New York. I understand.
Once again, no, wrong
Right.
side of the country.
Right, but
California.
still pretty close.
Las Vegas. No, actually, no, I was in Las Vegas because I won money in Las Vegas because. Now, this is one thing which people who've been through Las Vegas will know what I'm about to say, but people who've never travelled through Las Vegas
Such
airport,
as myself.
they have slot machines.
In
They
the
have slot
airport?
machines in the airport. So, and I had a 2-hour layover in Vegas due to a flight not taking off in Boise and having to be shunted onto another flight. And I went, I'm in Vegas. Kind of feel I'm obliged to gamble. I'm in Vegas.
It does seem like the thing to do.
So I went up to a slot machine. I took my not particularly crisp American dollar, fed it into the machine, pulled the arm, and won $40.
Goodness me.
And I went, well, I'll bet another $1 and see what happens. And won $5 and went, laws of diminishing return indicate I should give up now because I don't have a gambling issue. So I cashed in. What ended up being $44 because I'd spent one of the 5 on that second bet, and bought an Impossible Burger, which wasn't very good.
Was it possible, though?
It was possibly one of the worst burgers I've ever had, which is meant to be impossible. So the Impossible Burger is a all-vegetarian, all-vegan burger where the patty is meant to look and taste like meat, and when it cooks it's meant to bleed and things. And I had it and went, that's right, I never liked beef burgers in the first place, and this tastes exactly like a burger that I don't like.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, it was a bit.
Right, well, it's becoming obvious you're not going to tell us what you're up to in New York, so how about you say what you did in Los Angeles?
All right, so in Los Angeles, I went to Pizza, not Pizza, which I've been calling it for quite some time, Pizza College, to give a talk in the Monroe Center for Scientific Inquiry on why we should treat conspiracy theories seriously and investigate them.
And who was that at the behest of? How
That
did
was
you
the behest
wrangle
of
that?
Brian Keeley. I didn't wrangle
right.
it. Brian
Friend of the
invited
podcast?
me. Yes, he flew me. Well, he didn't personally fly me.
No.
The Monroe Center for Scientific Inquiry flew me to LA. I caught the train out from LA to Claremont, spent some wonderful time in one of the colleges of the Claremont Consortium, which turns out to be a wonderful set of 6 colleges nestled in the town of Claremont, California. And you've got Pizza, which I was at, Scripps, Pomona, Claremont, McKenna, Harvey Mudd. Harvey Mudd College is the inspiration for the character of Harry Mudd in Star Trek, because the writers of the original series went to engineering school there. And the founder of Harvey Mudd College, Mr. Harvey Mudd, ended up being the inspiration for the character of Harry Mudd.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So was this just a straight talk, or was it a discussion-y, panel-y thing, or what?
It was a straight talk, and then followed by question time.
Right.
So basically, I gave a talk on why we should think that conspiracies are a lot more common than people make them out to be, why we should all think of ourselves as conspiracy theorists, and how when those two things are taken together, it's quite obvious that we should take claims of conspiracy seriously, such that we should be obliged to investigate them, and then advance my new thesis about trying to form communities of inquiry, which would then allow us to distribute the epistemic labour and investigate conspiracy theories as a group. Because one of the things I keep pointing out is that there are lots of conspiracy theories. Josh, you will agree. We do this podcast. There are an awful lot of conspiracy theories out there.
We haven't run out yet, and this is episode
158.
159, it says here.
That number is wrong.
Is it?
Yes, because I thought I was going to record 2 episodes whilst I was away, and I only recorded one proper
there
one.
we go.
So the number is wrong.
Well, there's so many we've lost count.
It's true.
It could be any number, we really.
So keeping up with them as an individual is difficult. I mean, my job is to study these things. So given that there are so many I know of, let alone trying to keep up with the ones I find out about. So, I mean, whilst I was away, I was having coffee with Brian doing some research, found out about the Archon Congo invasion of 1996.
I'm intrigued.
So am I. I'm not quite sure what happened in the Congo in 1996, but it requires us to develop etheric weapons.
Nice.
Yeah. So yes, just by doing a cursory search, found more and more conspiracy theories to add as a list to my talk. And so because of that, as an individual, it's kind of hard to imagine how an individual can investigate a conspiracy theory, or at least investigate the phenomena of conspiracy theories in their polities. Much better for us to work as a community, distributing the epistemic labour. I can do the theory stuff, you can do the historical research stuff, the stuffed elephant over there can do the catering. That's what he's good at. And distribute all those labours to make it easier for us to distribute the burden of actually treating conspiracy theories seriously in our polities and investigating them. But I do that in 45 minutes with a song and dance routine.
Good. So how's it all received then?
It was received well. So we had a fairly decent crowd in Claremont.
College students?
Students and other members of faculty. They asked some good questions. I was able to take down some very good notes to then modify the talk when I gave it in Boise. Just a week later, it was an all-round success, I feel.
It's really good. What sort of questions? Do you get any sort of, people who see the word conspiracy theory and either expecting you to talk about wacky things and put on a tinfoil helmet and rant and rave, or people expecting you to not do that and getting angry when you don't?
So I didn't get any of the stock questions I sometimes get, which is, what do you think about conspiracy theory X? And Claremont, there was one particular case where someone was saying, look, these theories are just obviously daft from the outset, so we have to reserve that term. And that was the case of, I don't think you actually listened to what I said, because I presented an argument as to why claiming these things are prima facie daft from the outset actually isn't particularly evidential. But no, by and large, the questions I got were, how is this process of investigation going to work? And surely there's still space to carve out conceptually a set of theories which we have a prima facie suspicion of. Now, I know that some people think that that's a point in the favour of using the term pejoratively. Surely there are some theories that, on investigation, end up being prima facie false. And I think the problem is often our assumption about what's in that class of theories is not informed by us investigating those theories. The theories in that class are put there because we just keep on being told that those theories are daft and obviously illogical. I mean, one of the examples I used in the talk is David Icke. So, as you know, I've sat through 2 David Icke talks. We've sat through an interview with David Icke.
And a lovely fellow he was, nevertheless.
For someone who has some really interesting views.
Yes.
Now, many people will say, look, it's quite obvious that his conspiracy theory is daft. It's bunkum, it's bogus, it's weird, it's unusual. It's the kind of thing that no serious person should investigate. But most people's reaction to that is they've heard a variation of the conclusion, we're controlled by alien shape-shifting reptiles, and go, well, that just sounds stupid. Not many people have done what I've done, which is actually read the book, sat down and attended the lectures, and kind of sketched out the argumentative structure it uses to get to that conclusion. And the thing is, the actual argument he uses, whilst it has some interesting reasoning positions, such as his use of intuition as a marker for the truth of claims, the actual argument follows. If you accept his initial premises, it kind of just rattles out at the end that we are controlled by alien shape-shifting reptiles. So actually working out what's wrong, if anything, with his view requires you to grapple with the evidential stuff. So it's actually not prima facie obvious that David Icke is wrong. Actually showing why I think David Icke is wrong actually takes a lot of work. So it's not obvious that some of these theories are prima facie daft, but people do like to hold on to that view, in part because we keep on being told some of these theories are obviously false, when most of the time, if they're false, it's not obviously false. But that's just me rattling on.
Well, yes. So then it was off to Boise. Idaho. So was it the same talk?
It was mostly the same talk, minus the Polybius conspiracy example.
Why did that not go down well, or was it just
more.
distraction?
It was more. The timing of the talk was better without that example. If I was adding in stuff that I took as feedback from the Claremont talk. These talks are always evolving, Joshua.
Well,
what seems like a good example one day, it ends up being chaff the next. And you know me about chaff. I don't like chaff.
No, nobody does really. That's why you separate it from the wheat.
Although now, of course, I'm thinking about doing a version of the Shaft song, Chaffed. He's a bad mother. You shut your mouth. I'm talking about chaff.
Yes, no.
I can dig it.
I completely forgot what I was going to say now. Thanks to all your chaff and your wheat and your shaft.
Don't you talk about my shaft? This is a child-friendly podcast.
Yes. No, it's seriously totally gone.
Right, so we were talking about Boise. Was it the same talk?
Was it the same talk?
No.
No.
Was the beer good? Yes. The cider was good in Claremont, I have to say. Very good cider there.
So again, questions afterwards, not panelly, talky, multiple speakery.
And actually after that talk, I met up with the philosophers to have a drink with them, and the next day I met up with the students of the philosophy department to have a drink with them as well. So I did a lot of outreach whilst I was away.
And a lot of drinking from the sounds of it.
Yes. Yes, there was a lot of drinking whilst I was away.
I remember what I was going to say, you mentioned Polybius, which is something we haven't talked about before, but which we probably will be talking about
Indeed
soonish.
we will. Indeed we will. How many episodes are we taking a break at the end of the year? Are we just going to slide straight through?
I think probably next week will probably be the last one for the year.
That sounds before Christmas.
Yes, so then there'll be Christmassy stuff the next week and New Year'sy stuff the next week. I'm out of the city the week after that, so maybe sort of a 3-week
hiatus. How will the fans cope, Joshua?
I don't know. They'll just have to while away the time opening their Christmas presents.
In slow motion for 3 weeks.
Some sort of tantric Christmas.
There's a visual gag there for those of you who aren't watching the podcast. And not a very good visual gag, I might add.
Not your best work, no. Now, just quickly before we run out of time, so if you watch only the YouTube version of this sort of vodcast thing, which you almost certainly don't, you probably wouldn't be aware though that the regular podcast version had a special extra secret bonus content.
I thought you were going to do a puppet version of that.
No, well, I would require 3 hands for one thing.
You've got children.
They're not very well trained.
That's your fault.
Yes, well, no. So you may or may not have heard that Matthew treated us to first a quick little update from Idaho, where I understand it was cold.
It was cold, averaging about 0 degrees Celsius in the middle of the day.
And then
I had to suffer an inversion.
What?
So Boise is in kind of the middle of the plain, surrounded by mountains. When it's cold and it hasn't rained or snow, the pollution gets trapped in the valley as a kind of grey haze with blue skies above. And so you kind of look out and it's grey and hazy, but there are no clouds, and your snot is black when you blow it into a hanky.
Why is that an inversion?
Because the weather has inverted, and so you've got a cold base and a hot top.
Right.
It's inverted.
Okay, so that almost makes sense. I can't forget what I was saying again. you and your bloody inversions.
At the age of 41, your memory is going. Do you
No.
even know what year this is?
I choose not to. No, what I was going to say was... So
That's because you've been buying crisscross
I-
singles as if you're living back in the 80s.
I own no singles by Criss Cross yet.
About buying one.
The reason why I keep forgetting what I'm saying is because you won't let me get it out of my bloody mouth and keep distracting me with your crisscross and your inversions and your shaft.
I can dig it.
You just keep your shaft out of my ears,
I will
Matthew.
say nothing more for the rest of the podcast.
Because what I was going to say, of course, was that Matthew also posted an interview, a decent length interview to the podcast between you and Martin Orr and Jenna Husting. Now, Martin Orr we've heard about a fair bit on this podcast before. You've had interviews with him and so on. Jenna Husting, I don't believe, has shown up on this podcast before. Can you give us a quick rundown of who these people were and how it is that you came to be talking about them? Is this some sort of passive-aggressive thing because I said you kept talking over top of me? And now you're pretending not to talk. Right. Do I need to give you permission? You may speak now, Matthew. Please vocalise your innermost desires.
Oh, thank God for that. I thought I was never going to be able to speak ever again in your presence. It would be a very one-sided podcast, especially if we still wrote up the dual notes for the news and you just gave your half.
It'd be like an episode of Sooty or something.
Yeah. That's true. Donald Trump has alleged some weird things about the Mueller investigation. Yes, it is true. He may fire Mueller. Yes. And war with North Korea does seem very imminent. And now, over to you, So yes, Jenna and Marty wrote a paper together many moons ago, actually quite some time ago, called Dangerous Machinery, which basically talks about the label conspiracy theorist in political rhetoric. So they've worked together. They've written 2 articles on conspiracy theories together. Marty presented work that he and Jenna were doing at the Miami conference in 2015. So the first interview I ever did with Marty was basically talking about the work they were doing together. Marty and I formed a very good friendship and now also a working relationship, writing papers together. And now the 3 of us are working on a paper together. So basically, she's a very proactive scholar in sociology. She works on conspiracy theories. I work with her on conspiracy theories. It's a rum time being had by all.
Well, jolly good then.
It is.
Yes. Well, I think we're about at time for this episode, and I think we've pretty much wrapped up everything that you've been up to and everything that I've been up to. It doesn't seem that we're ever going to find out what you're up to in New York, but that's okay. I'm willing to let that go.
I'm glad that you're willing to allow my geographical non-location in New York to not be an issue for the rest of this podcast.
Yep, no, I forgive you, Matthew. You don't need to. You can keep some things from us. That's all right. I'll allow it. So, I think we've probably come to the end of an episode.
We have come to a natural conclusion.
Final thoughts? Any?
We're just not quite sure where we'll get rubber chaps at this time of night, but that's just another matter entirely.
No, entirely separate from the goings-on at the present moment. So, I should probably actually turn back to the camera now, having been staring into
lovingly
Matthew's baleful eyes for most of this time, and say you have been listening to the Podcaster's Guide to the Conspiracy. My name is Josh Addison. If you want to get in touch with me, you could do so on Twitter, where I go by the name of Monkey Fluids. You could even follow me. You know who else follows me, Matthew? John Rogers, he does.
Yeah, but no one cares about that, Joshua. No one cares about that at all.
I care violently.
And you're the only person who does.
That's probably true. And that's basically all the contact details I generally give, so over to you.
I'm followed by Professor Elementor on Twitter, and he is a steampunk hip-hop artist, so take that and suck it.
Yep, no, I can't deny that. You've got me there.
You can follow me at HORansom or Conspiracism. Visit my blog at episto.org, where sometimes you'll find my writing. But actually, I should point out I had an article published whilst I was away. An article which I had submitted and edited weeks ago.
This is the one we talked about in a previous episode, is it? Or is it another other
No,
one?
this is called The Problem of Fake News. It appears in the journal Public Reason, which is a journal published by the University of Bucharest. It's open access, so you can just go online and read the article now. And I consider it kind of my first pass at trying to describe the phenomena of fake news and how it's not quite a new phenomena, but it is an interesting aspect of current contemporary as opposed to non-current contemporary
Past
political
contemporary.
discourse.
Future contemporary, that's where it's at.
Yeah, future contemporary is my kind of jazz. And yeah, that came out whilst I was away.
Jolly good. Oh, well, you should put links on your site and on your Twitters, and then anyone who wants to know about it can follow you.
Consume
as
it.
they very well should.
Indeed they should.
The vodcast video spectacular version of the Podcaster's Guide to the Conspiracy is available on YouTube. I finally actually got round to doing the thing of letting Google auto-generate subtitles for the most recent episode. Mostly so it can't handle if we're both talking at once. That's just totally beyond it, and does seem to get a little bit confused really when there are two people talking in a thing. It tends to sort of take what you say and what I say and just run it and think it's hearing an entire sentence. But there was some gold in there.
There was indeed. Monkey fluencer.
Dr. M Dentists.
That's true, I am.
And somehow it managed to get prepare to eat your hat and turn it into prepare to eat your hands, which...
Well, I'm blaming that on lazy Kiwi vowel sounds.
Well, there's probably a bit of that as well, yes. But if you want to experience that hilarity, just basically search YouTube for Podcaster's Guide to the Conspiracy. It's probably the easiest way to do it. If you're an old school kind of a person and you just want it straight in your ear holes and nowhere else, just listen to it like a regular person on a podcast listener of your choice. iTunes is good. Actually, what are they? Is it called Apple? It's called something different now, isn't it? Isn't Apple trying to call it Apple Music or?
Apple Music is a subscription service which is separate from the iTunes system where you can subscribe to podcasts.
Well, that's all beyond me anyway. But
anyway,
we all know what we mean by iTunes. Listen to it on that. Listen to it on Stitcher. Go to where it's actually hosted at podbean.com. So go to conspiracism.podbean.com if you want to see the source, original, hot off the press, dyed in the wool, broken the I don't know, I'm mixing metaphors now, version of it. Also, there is a link to the Podbean's built-in patronage campaign, where you can give us a little bit of money, if you like.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, we do like a little
or
bit of
just
money.
go straight to Patreon, where they presumably will not shaft you out of strange administration fees or something, and you can just give us money and nothing else, as God intended.
Indeed, and God intends you to give us a lot of money because we're a prosperity podcast. We preach the good news of giving us money.
Yeah.
And we sound so convincing when we try to ask you.
It's good news to us.
It
You
is.
get it?
Goes cha-ching!
Yes.
And then we break out the champagne.
Yes.
Which is why we have no cash, because
We spent it all on
every
celebration.
time you give us $1, we buy a $28 bottle of champagne. It's a really, really bad system.
Yes. No, you'd think we'd come up with something better by now, but no.
Nah, not
That's
at all.
all there is. Righto. Well, that's the episode. That's the contacts. That's everything.
It is indeed.
So, from the Podcaster's Guide to the Conspiracy, goodbye.
And toodle pip.
You've been listening to Podcaster's Guide to the Conspiracy, hosted by Josh Addison and M. Dentith. If you'd like to help support us, please find details of our pledge drive at either Patreon or Podbean. If you'd like to get in contact with us, email us at podcastconspiracy@gmail.com.
Now record your face, Dimitri!
Hooray!
Your face, Dimitri! It's on camera! Say something for camera, Dimitri!
Das Vidanya.
Oh, this is
That's
recorded,
goodbye, but
recorded
anyway.
for posterity! Oh, Dimitri, we have success on video casting! Please make sure you put this in video What episode? Our terrible Russian space program.
Destroy the capitalism.
Indeed, communism. Communism. Perestroika. Space program, Dmitry. Say hey! Hey!
Yeah. I work with quite a few Russians, so maybe I shouldn't be
Communism is
disseminating
great, comrade.
dodgy Russian accents.